You got it. It's Monday, and it is BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. If you were just wondering what's going on, hey, where are you at? You know what? We're on Saturdays and Sundays, too. Don't forget that. But listen, Drive Safe Dave, we've got a new, I say a new audience out there. These folks, they're watching us today from the KOA, right? Maybe on the corner of Broad Street and 3rd. You know what? Welcome to our show. And Dave, the reason they're watching that is because we've asked them twice now to bet their houses on our playoff picks. And by now, they're homeless. They're staying at the KOA.
Yeah.
They're sitting on the corner now. Hey, I'm sorry about that. If you can find one more person, though, that has a house, you know what? I will have a pick for you later on for the Super Bowl.
I will, too. I will have definitely.
What a game. And you know what?
Both of them
Good games, I guess. But, man, you had the Chiefs just gave the game away. Gave it away.
Hey.
Mahomes like saying, you know what? I got plans that weekend. I can't really make it.
I got commercials to do.
Whatever it is, it's insane.
That dude was in every commercial that was on TV. I swear that guy was on every commercial. When does he have time to practice?
Yeah, I don't know. He's only got half as much time as he did before because first half he looked good, second half not
tired.
So good. Yeah, tired from shooting all night, whatever that is. Hey, Drive Safe Dave, Mama's back from traveling. You picked her up on Saturday. Talk to me.
Oh, yeah. Very glad for her to be
reunited, and it feels so good.
Very, very welcoming. Very glad that baby is home because...
Baby is home.
Baby is home. I don't know. I just said that.
I don't know. You know what? Nobody puts... Coming out of Patrick Swayze's mouth, nobody puts baby in the corner, and then coming out of your mouth, it doesn't do the same justice,
It could. I mean, it depends on who the recipient is. And I can tell you, my wife appreciates
I can tell you this.
Baby.
Nobody wants to be baby if you're the one that's talking to him.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What do you think of my wife? She likes it.
You know what, Drive Safe, I'm sure she does. Hey, speaking of like, we love the white shirt today. Big fan of Drive Safe Dave when he wears the white T-shirts. Dave, talk to us a little bit about that sign.
This is, hey, divided roadway ahead. That's what this sign means, divided roadway ahead. It could be a median or a signpost, but it's divided roadway ahead. That's basically what this is.
And when are you seeing those on the highway, in the small cities? What are you seeing?
You can see these in any location basically that has two opposing lanes that are running together, and then something divides them, whether it be a median or whether it be a sign or divided, but it's usually a solid object, and it just basically means be prepared to move over and have a divided road ahead.
Hey, we had the cold weather up in the Northeast this past weekend. And it wasn't just the Northeast. It kind of scooted a little bit south into Florida.
Oh,
and when it got down, it was crazy, right? When you got into that Miami, Florida area, not only did it affect the people, right? Everybody bundled up in Miami. It got to the 50s, but it also affected those iguanas. So all of a sudden you're walking down, you're doing a brisk little walk downtown, and iguanas are falling off the tree. They're just falling off because they've got that cold weather shock of their body. I guess when it gets to 45 degrees, their body goes into shock.
Catatonic. Yeah,
and they just
tip over. Actually,
tree.
there was a warning issued by several local authorities telling everybody, don't pick them up. Don't bring them home. They're not toys. They're not objects to grab later and warm up because they will come back. They weren't dead. They're just in shock, and they'll just, boom, they'll pop up, and now all of a sudden they're mad that you have them in your hands.
Yeah, they're not petrified, I guess, right?
No,
you look at them, you think, you know what? I guess it will stay like, because their eyes are open. Yeah. They're just in shock. They didn't know. But they fall off the tree.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so if you're walking down and you're just taking a little jaunt under the palm tree, maybe you're sitting down there having a picnic with your sweetheart.
Bam!
It's gonna
lizard sickle. You get a lizard sickle right there on the walkway.
Hey, what do you think about Pete Buttigieg? Pete, how do you say his last name? Buttigieg? Pete. We'll just go with Pete again. Pete, the secretary.
Buttigieg. It's Edge.
I don't know.
Buttigieg.
That's
what Buttigieg. We got Buttigieg.
I don't think you're right. I'm going against you right now. Hey, the U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete. Let's go about that. Hey,
Mayor Pete.
Yeah, there you go, Mayor Pete. He mentioned about in his $14 billion in funding, he mentions the word speed camera plan, and all of a sudden it's all over the news. What are your thoughts on that, Jack?
First of all, it was never even brought up as part of the road structure bill to help, or the improvement bill, and now all of a sudden we're finding a way to tax revenue. Another way to revenue taxes.
You know what? We got $14 billion we're going to give for cameras out there, right? 3D, all these little cool little cameras. Give me some parking for our trucks. How about that?
Yeah.
How about we focus on a little bit of safety right here? Because drive safe, I'm going to say, we have a lot of people argue, you know what, it's not right, but we've had the ability, let's face it, to do the speed checks whenever we want. Let's go back to the old school, what is that called? The tollways, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, you go in there, you'd get your ticket, and when you got to the end, it'd be time stamped again. You'd pay your dollars. But in between there and how fast you got there is pretty simple to me. You know what? You went 100 miles in 30 minutes. It's safe to say you went 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just real simple on that, but we don't want the cameras, right? We don't want there's a lot of, we used to have them here for the stoplights.
Yeah, and now they're outlawed here. Speeding, they're outlawed here for speed in the state of Texas. I think there's 8 that don't allow it anymore. But you know what? I get this. Look, is this just another example of our opportunity to spend money again, how we didn't say we're going to spend it? And how are we going to spend the money that we collect from the speeding cameras? I mean, nobody mentioned that. Nobody said, hey, we're going to use it to save children from, danger. We're not going to use it. We just, we'll find another way to misuse the capital funding. 100%.
Hey, you know what? Who may know the name? We have Dana Moore with the TXTA, and we have Peyton as well. Peyton Inge from he does commercial litigation and liability defense. Hey, we got Buckle Up Bob, and we're going to talk with those folks, again, sticking to our subjects of accident reporting, the do's and the don'ts, and what you can do and need to do and should do to make sure you give us, right, that trucking company, a chance to be successful, a chance to protect ourselves. It's coming up next on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. We're joined today with Dana Moore and Peyton Inge. And folks, here we go. How do you say Pete? Is it Buttigieg? Is it Buttigieg? Anybody know that?
I thought it was
Clue.
Buttigieg.
I don't know if it is or not. Anyway, it's just Pete. Here we go. U.S. Secretary. Hey, welcome to BCB Live. We're excited to have you on here. I know Buckle Up Bob, worked hard to get this kind of set up. And Bob, you know what? Let's start this here. How about Dana and Peyton? Can you tell us just a little bit about who you are, what you represent, and I guess that's probably good right there.
Yeah, just start.
Well, I'm Dana Moore, and I'm with the Texas Trucking Association. I'm a retired Texas DPS, where I taught commercial vehicle classes to the DOT officers for 16, 17 years. And now I represent TXTA as a government relations director. And I also do some training for drivers as well as carriers.
All right.
I'm
And
Peyton
been
Inge,
at gas with us
commercial
before.
officer, trucking companies around the country. Paid for school driving a rock bucket. I started off driving a cattle truck for my grandfather out on the ranch when I was young. Trucking's basically been a part of my life despite the fact I went to law school.
All right, and Peyton, from what I understand, you got yourself a Peterbilt, and you do a little racing with it. Is that right?
Well, not racing with the truck, but I sure drive it around the country. She's an old 82 feet 359, and drive that thing absolutely everywhere.
All right, and we've been talking last week, and this is kind of where we get going here. We've been talking about the do's and the don'ts when it comes to accidents, right? At the accident scene, buckle up, Bob. What do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, some of the things, like when during our research is the burden of proof, Peyton, and and I came across a term that I didn't understand, and maybe you could address it. What is comparative fault as a defense? I've never heard that before. I didn't know if you did. And then maybe, we can focus on the liability issues, that how we can help protect the drivers and the companies, what they need to do to help protect themselves in liability issues.
Absolutely. Yeah, the concept of comparative fault simply means that we're going to point the finger at typically the offending driver, the adverse driver, and we're going to say that driver is the one that actually caused the wreck. And I think in the cases I see, in the cases we take to trial, it's probably 80% the fault of the other driver in 80% of the wrecks we see. And that's one of the things that we really work on with the jury. If we have to try this case, it's what the other driver could have done to avoid running into our truck.
Do pictures, we talked a lot about pictures, do's and don'ts last week. Do they come into play in that comparative fault at all?
They sure can, and that's one of the things that a driver can do at the scene that really helps if we have to go try this case, is taking pictures of where the vehicles came to rest, of the road, signage. All of that is incredibly useful for helping me prove that our driver, his account is the accurate account. And then when we're talking about photographs of the damage, a lot of the cases we see, they're extremely minor incidents. But being able to point to a photograph of, a 20-mile-an-hour bumper that's barely scratched is very, very useful for being able to put the plaintiff's story in context.
Gotcha. And Dana, when we think about Texas, things have changed, right, over this year, say, compared to 2 years ago. Talk to us a little bit about litigation inside of Texas now and some of the changes said the TXTA has been behind in getting done.
Was that question for me? I'm sorry.
There you go. That was for you there, Dana. Sorry about that.
I'm gonna defer that back to Peyton since he tries these cases.
And I'm having a hard time hearing you as well. Would you mind asking that one more time?
No, you're good. So regarding some of the say the reform that we here in Texas have gone through, right? Changes. It has any of the new policies. What has that done to you on the litigation side? How about that? Regarding policies today versus say 3 years ago, HB 19, for example. What has that done for you in trying cases or protecting the carrier?
Well, okay, so the law is very, very new. The biggest impact it's had for me is being able to tell judges that sometimes are a little bit enamored with these plaintiffs' attorneys that spend a lot of money on their election bills, is saying, hey, Judge, this bill was required because this type of plaintiff's lawyer was making this exact same type of argument, in that they're entitled to get thousands of pages of records, and they're able to talk about negligent entrustment, hiring, and all this other jazz. And I say, Judge, look, it was so bad that the Texas legislature had to step in. And look, these are all the types of arguments that are now prohibited making at this stage of the trial. And what I found is that the judges have been very receptive to that, because they do understand that a lot of what the plaintiffs are asking for is simply absurd from a legal standard. And the Senate bill has been very, very useful from that standpoint. Looking forward and down the road, I think it's going to be incredibly useful for limiting a lot of the more extraneous type arguments I hear in the early stages of litigation about discovery and things like that. And I also like the ability to bifurcate the trial if we have to go try it.
You know, and I sit there and I hear you talking about educating the judges out on the bill. I'm just curious, Dana, I was going to ask you as well, how important is it that we educate not only the drivers, but the trucking companies and all this, and how do we go about doing this effectively for going forward with this type of litigation?
I think we lost him here. I think we lulled him to sleep. Drive safe, Dave. Oh, there he is. Hey, Dana.
Okay. Are we back now?
We are back.
The bill has a number of things that every driver and every carrier should be doing. Now, if you're interested in seeing this list, we developed it. It's on our website, texastrucking.com, and just go to the advocacy tab, click on it, and you can download a PDF version. I mentioned a while ago the bifurcation trial, and I'll let him explain a little bit more about that, as he is the lawyer on this program. But there is something called negligent entrustment, and when they bifurcate or separate the trial into two phases, the first phase is all about the negligence of the driver, or alleged negligence, and the alleged negligence of the carrier. And what can be brought in is essentially the facts relating to those, not all the other things that they've been bringing in that have nothing to do with the crash. So during the process of up with another list, should I say, myself and another attorney were able to come up with a list of the things that every good carrier should be doing and every professional driver should be doing. I'll kind of summarize them. When asked about this, I said, well, pretty obvious that a driver should be properly licensed and not in violation of any restrictions and in compliance with any endorsements that are required. That's pretty simple right there. The fact that the driver is not disqualified from standard drug and alcohol testing or whatever. The license is clear and valid. The driver's taken a road test if one is required. Now, that's another issue, but road test is not required in every single case, but if one is required, then one has to have been done. Another one that drivers can really easily work on is, or be in compliance with, is medically certified. And that means not only getting your medical certificate, but also making sure that your licensed state, they call it State Driver's License Agency, in this case in Texas is Texas DPS, has that on file. Because as you know, if it's not on file, after 60 days, the license is downgraded to a Class C driver's license. Not operating the vehicle while prohibited from any kind of drug and alcohol testing. And this is a huge one right here. Not operating a handheld mobile phone or texting at the time of the crash. Now, I think most all companies have a policy on that now, and besides that, it's law. And to think about it, maybe Peyton wants to talk about that a little bit more in his experience, but if you think these attorneys cannot figure out whether or not you were on your phone, you may be mistaken, or you were not texting. And if you ever, as a driver, refuse or fail the drug test, cannot perform any safety-sensitive functions, which includes driving, and of course, not subject to the any kind of out-of-service order. So if you were to, by chance, get put out of service roadside, say for hours of service or something, and then you drive off, violating that out-of-service order, now this opens the door for negligent entrustment in the first phase of the trial. And the last thing I'll say about this is carriers have a dual responsibility in this area, because they have to make sure the driver is doing these types of things, with the exception of carriers need to make sure that the driver actually has an application on file. And that's part of the hiring process now, has been for a number of years. Just double check the records and make sure there's an application in the file.
Hey, I want to kind of mention one of the things you had brought up, and that's that cell phone policy. Peyton, I'm going to throw it over to you. The cell phone policy, I know most companies, if not every company, has a policy. Is use other technology, say that the ping or the no cell, that technology that does disable those phones, while that company driver is say driving that truck?
So I personally don't like the function of being able to turn.
Well, that was
personal responsibility for those phones, and the driver's not going to be using that phone or texting on it while he's driving. And I think that's by far the safest way to do it. So many of the folks I run into, they know that it is incredibly important to make sure they're not on that phone while they're driving, and they're not texting. But I do run into cases all the time, and I've got a fatality right now where my driver didn't do anything wrong except that he was texting, and it's obvious on the camera. I think the prudent companies these days are simply reminding folks you cannot be texting on that phone while you're driving. I think that's the best way to proceed.
Got you.
Hey, I was going to ask him. We talk about that, and we talk about not being on the phone. Does that incorporate or also include hands-free? I mean, if you're talking hands-free, which is allowed by law, but you see that as a problem area as well? Because we have two different views on that, and if you're using it hands-free, are you on the phone or you shouldn't be on the phone? How do you view that?
So I am personally okay with the driver that's on the phone using a hands-free device in most cases, as long as they're able to comfortably manage traffic. It is obviously something that comes up all the time when we're talking about, should the driver have been on the phone or not if we have to go try that case. But at the end of the day, jurors are just fine with it in most cases, as long as you're using that hands-free device, because it's not excluded. It's the texting that really I have a problem with, because it does distract the driver for such a long period of time. It's really quite hard to explain.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking to that, some of the communication we've had here, what is your viewpoint again? And for those companies that don't run the forward-facing camera, the outward-facing camera, is that just something we all have to have?
So you live or die by the camera footage that you get. But I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, the camera footage that I find is incredibly useful to defending that case. And I strongly encourage companies, individual drivers, if you think you're a good driver, you trust your drivers, even an inexpensive forward-facing camera can save you a lot of money if something unfortunate happens.
Okay, now I got to ask this one here, because I question my follow-up question is, what about the driver-facing camera? Is that looked a little different than the forward-facing or the outward-facing camera?
Yeah, there are a number of trains of thought on that, but I'll tell you, in my experience, there's only been 1 or 2 instances where an inward-facing camera showed me something that was useful. And what I find more often than not is if you have an inward-facing camera, even though the driver's not doing anything wrong, it does. It's something that the plaintiff's attorney picks on. Why did the driver see X, Y, or Z danger up in front of them when the driver didn't do anything wrong to begin with? And so I really personally don't care for the inward-facing cameras in most instances.
Well, I appreciate that. Y'all have anything else? I know we're running. We got about a minute and a half. Hey, Dana, what are you working on today with the TXTA? Anything that we can get behind you and help you with?
Absolutely. The entry-level driver training, that goes into effect on February the 7th. We've been reminding our members for some months now to make sure that they are aware of this. One of the questions, or probably the number one question that I'm getting, and I've confirmed this with Texas DPS and also at a conference I was at last week with FMCSA. What about if I have started? I've got my CLP. I've taken my test, but I haven't gotten my road test and gotten my CDL by February the 7th. And essentially, once a driver starts the process before February the 7th, then they stay under those rules. Now, if you wait till February the 7th and go down there and do your application, you're under the new ELDT rules.
Gotcha. Drive safe.
Wow, that's interesting. And do you have any other litigation you got coming out, Dana, that we were talking about that you guys are working on, like where Rick was talking about? in regards to, I guess what I would like to know is like education for everybody. The drivers out there, the companies out there, what are y'all working on to help better them on your webpage?
Well, like I said, we have this information that I talked about earlier in the form they can download. Really, right now, as far as litigation, I think Peyton will probably agree with this. We're kind of just watching to see what the trial lawyers are going to do. You know they're going to be looking for ways around this. And so TXTA and our associate attorneys like Peyton, you know, we're watching it, and they're kind of keeping tabs on what's going on in the courtroom.
Gotcha. Hey, folks, I want to tell you, we appreciate you. And listen, everybody, the listeners out there, this is a battle. We've got to make sure we're doing what we can do to help these folks, help us out. We've got to make sure, and Drive Safe Dave, as we talk, and Dana, I want to tell y'all, thank you, Dana Peyton. Thank you for joining us today. Very nice to have you here because let's face it, we see the commercials, right? These plaintiff attorneys, they're getting on jets. You know, that tells me they're making a lot of money. They have their own jet, like in their backyard, and they're getting on it, saying, you know what, if you've been hit by a car or by a truck, you know, give us a call. And it's not just the Hammer. It's a lot of these folks now.
It's out there. It's on billboards. It's on the television. It's everywhere you turn. It's on the papers, magazines. And then everyone knows I was bumped. Oh, all of a sudden, yes. I got a neck problem. I mean, I'm just saying, we all understand what goes on here. We've just got to be genuinely prepared.
Hey, listen, we're going to go to a break. Again, want to encourage you to be part of the TXTA. I want you to work on some of these practices that Buckle Up Bob's been talking about because it helps folks, like Peyton, to protect us in our industry. Make sure you're doing the right thing. Make sure that you're getting those pictures. You're getting, if you have that forward-facing camera, that outward-facing camera that's being used, and don't text and drive. You heard it right there. Don't text and drive. Baby steps, right? If there's things that we can work on, don't watch Netflix on your TV, don't do drugs, and don't text on drive. Those are things we just can't do. Listen, we're going to be back to you in about 30 seconds with BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
That was the...
Back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. As we get up on this 7:30 mark, I know you all are ready to write down that phrase that pays, because this week, Drive Safe, it's worth $400. Right? Nobody got it last week.
We did. We had a winner.
We did have a winner. He texted it in late.
We're resetting to $100.
Back to 100.
We're resetting
back to
to $100.
One. But it all starts with 100. Drive Safe, give it to us.
Plan your whole trip to strive to save stress, money, and mostly lives.
One more time.
Plan your whole trip to strive to save stress, money, and mostly lives.
Okay, because you know what? I read that. I'm not sure what it means. So can you just tell me what that means to you? And I'll go with it, because I had a hard time following.
Yeah, well, there were no commas in there, so I read it like it was a sentence. It should have had commas, and it needs commas in there. But
hey, that's what I got sent in from Dave this morning. He gave me a whole list of ones, and that was the first one.
If it's missing the commas, my mistake. But I'm just saying, you know what? It's all talking about planning.
Hold on a second. That was yours?
No, sir.
Okay.
That wasn't mine.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
No, it wasn't mine. I forwarded
Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Tell it again what that means.
That basically means to plan, to pre-plan, to get an idea of where you're headed, what you're doing, and how you're doing it. Make sure you know and where you're headed. Are you heading into bad weather? Are you heading into a place where you might have limited parking? Are you heading into a spot where, you might have to worry about how to get fuel? How you plan your trip so that you're not stressed out there on the road trying to figure out what you're doing. You kind of understand where you're at. It is kind of Believe it or not, the old pre-planned days where you've pulled open the map, it's still a good idea to just be prepared when you head out there on the road.
Be prepared only on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Hi, this is David Dover, also known as Drive Safe Dave. You are watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Safety is what you want to talk about, and safety is what you want to be every single day. That's what we're here for. We're here to make it better.
The industry needs BCB Live so that it can find new and inventive ways to bring safety to the forefront for every single person out there on the road.
You got to be prepared to stop. And when you look at that and you understand the situation that you're in, you got to know that it's going to change. You got to expect it to change, and you can't run those lights.
You can watch BCB Live weekdays, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. So what are you waiting for? Follow and subscribe to BCB Live today.
Again, we've got the problem as you come up south or northbound from the south from Burleson. As you approach the 20 merge, it usually backs up there a little bit. But all in all, not too bad in the Fort Worth area. Dallas got some issues downtown and on the north eastern side of the loop. You can see up here in Garland, both directions have some backups. Right here at this 30 merge point. I know there was an accident over there in the Dallas area this morning, so again, it was a minor fender bender, but it could have some of the reason for the backups. And then 20 westbound as you come in near Forney, you have a backup on the westbound lane there as well. So DFW got a little bit of some morning commute issues, but all in all, it looks pretty clean for you this morning. As we get to the Houston area, right? Houston looks pretty good. The loops look great. 45 coming from the south looks good. 69 looks good from the south heading north. 90, the thoroughfare 69 here at Humble looks good. 45 coming down looks great. Houston, you guys all look great this morning. The loops are clear. There's just nothing again, as you come into Atlanta, be ready for some slowdowns. But all in all, it's not bad for Atlanta this morning. Let's see what we got in our D.C. area. Baltimore, typical slowdowns, just morning rush hour commute. You got both directions here in Parkville and Towson. Pikesville is the eastbound direction, so not too bad there. All right, hey, welcome back. BCB Live, the Safe Station Nation. As I said, we're going to talk about some weather because we've got a lot coming this week. We get a couple days break, but I'll show you a little bit about what we're really going to deal. You can see, as I said this morning, Houston area just west, maybe near the San Antonio area. We got some severe thunderstorms potential there, and I'll show you the radar. There you go. Right now, it's just a little bit northwest of Houston, but that whole area is under potential strong storms this morning. We've got some wind coming into Wyoming. You can see it already. And as we go through the day, really gets heavy up in Montana, parts of South Dakota, and Nebraska. And I'll show you some of the current winds we've seen up here in Montana, 45-mile-an-hour gusts. There's a 48 down in southern Wyoming. So again, if you're out there in these areas, watch the winds. They're bad this morning in that area, and they're going to get worse or potentially worse as the day goes by. What I really we're going to focus on, unfortunately, the white stuff. So I really want to show you really how this moves in and where the temperature line is. So you'll kind of see this fall as we get, for most of the country, it's good. Till about Wednesday night, you can see this line starts to form right there from St. Louis into Illinois, all the way down into just south of Kansas City with some ice pellets and some freezing rain. And when we look at the temperature, you can see the line right in front of that. So as you watch these temperatures for the week, Tuesday evening into, let's go back to the precipitation time. But you'll see this will start around Tuesday evening. There you can see some of the wet snow. And then as the temperatures drop, that's around 6 p.m., 10 p.m., 9, you start to see that ice start to form. And this ice belt just gets bigger as the week goes. Folks, I hate the ice. I know you drivers out there do too. But it's going to be serious because of the ice and the freezing rain. So you can see Wednesday, 5 a.m., the freezing rain belt got bigger, right? It's still in Illinois. Now it's stretching down through Kansas and Oklahoma. And again, when we look at that temperature line, look at that. Just right out in front of that freezing rain, you'll be able to see this, and this will be consistent throughout the week. You'll watch these temperatures as they fall just ahead of where that freezing rain is. So again, we'll go back to the precipitation type, and we'll look at Wednesday afternoon, right? 3 o'clock. Now we're in Oklahoma City. We've got that freezing rain. And then Thursday, it starts to creep into the Dallas area. Now, you can see that big old line. Let me push that up a little bit. And then here's the temperatures. You're going to see the drop right there, even on the temperatures. There it is. So again, the freeze line is right along this week. So you're going to watch these temperatures as they drop. And what they're doing is there's a lot of moisture. We're going to see a lot of ice. The potential for ice is huge. They're talking like 25 to 30 mile bands stretching all the way from Dallas up into Columbus, Ohio, you can see. And then as we move through the day on Thursday, the temperatures do not warm up. It starts to move a little bit out of Dallas, but you can see it creeps up into New York, up there in Erie, Pennsylvania, and stretches all the way through Columbus. So a lot of the major highways are going to get hit with this freezing rain and ice. And then as we go into Thursday evening, you can see it kind of dries up Midwest, and now it's all out here on the East Coast, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, up into New York. And then by Friday, it starts to get out to the ocean a little bit. We'll move that back. You see Virginia ice pellets, West Virginia, I'm sorry. And then Friday evening, it kind of pushes itself out. So, hey, starting late Tuesday evening, early Tuesday evening, through Friday evening, we're going to have some major ice throughout the whole, probably 2/3, or at least half, the eastern half of the country, stretching from Texas through Oklahoma, all the way up into Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. So, folks, we got to be ready for this plan. We heard that the phrase that pays this morning was, hey, make sure that you are planning, right? It could save your life, save you some time and money. Carriers out there, be ready on Saturday, right? You may lose some money here with this weather. Drivers. So it's one of those things in this industry that if you don't work Saturdays, be ready, because you're probably going to have a lot of opportunity to make some of that revenue back, because some of the loads, as they get canceled and postponed, they're going to have to deliver them on Saturdays as this weather moves through their areas. So be ready for that, especially the farther east you go. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with some safety. To try to think they can squeeze through. So basically what you want to do is you can survey the situation coming from the right there when you're going to make it. Make sure it's clear, make sure there's no traffic, and then if you have to, swing out into that lane of traffic and complete your turn. That prevents anybody from trying to sneak in on your right side. So the button hook is what they call I don't know what drivers, Drive Safe Dave, maybe you can lend some terminology to this, but this is what they use. The jug handle is typically ill-advised versus the button hook on making a safe right-hand turn.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you, Bob, that a lot of the times, you'll notice that button hook, it becomes impossible when there's traffic sitting there waiting. to move, like at a stoplight, and it makes it difficult. So a combination of the two genuinely helps out. You kind of take it midstream. I think right-hand turns are probably some of the most difficult turns to do because it's a blindside turn. Also, it allows an opportunity, like you said, for a vehicle to sneak up and wiggle in, trying to think that all that they're doing is passing when they're not taking into consideration the maneuver that is required in order to do a right-handed turn. It's probably, to me, the right-handed turn. Whenever I've done a driving test, I would right-hand turn somebody 3 or 4 times as compared to a left-hand turn because they can look out the side, they can look straight ahead, they can see, and they always have usually a wider swing. That's a much tighter turn and a much more careful. So yeah, I'll tell you what, that right-hand turn, be careful, take your time, understand what's around you, and I think a genuine combination of both is the ideal way to do it. A little to the edge and a little to the edge, and it does make a huge difference out there.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear what the drivers on the show might have through their years of experience. And I think you're right. If you do a little bit of the jug handle, just make sure you don't do so much to where you allow that other vehicle to think they can get by. Cheat a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that situational awareness also comes into play on this. Is there a car in that left-hand lane when you're getting ready to do that turn, or is there a median there? What's behind you? Because yes, you're right. Because when there's where there's a line of cars behind you, somebody is going to try to sneak in there, and you just got to be ready, right? Know your surroundings, know your situation, know what's going on. And I tell you, that's a dreaded turn for me. I see it here downtown, and I always make sure I stop traffic and let them in because it's a dangerous turn.
And not only that, I mean, you genuinely, and drivers know that those situations change dramatically when in whatever kind of equipment you're pulling or how your equipment is tandemed when you're pulling it. You might have your axles all the way forward, which would make it not as difficult, or you may have them slid quite back, in the states that allow it to be all the way to the tail, which makes it a whole different ball game when that tandems are all the way to the back. Also, we have some things, there are other pieces of equipment out there that are extended, 57-footers and other things like that, which definitely you have to be aware of what you're pulling when you're out there because it changes how you make the right-hand turn.
Good point.
Yeah, and talk to your families. One of the things I see, and it was a bad habit of mine that I had to break, but when you got that stop sign at an intersection and that car goes out a little too far, making it harder for that truck to turn, just kind of educate people. Stay back behind those lines so that it give those trucks plenty of room that they need to make those difficult turns.
All right, video time. Video time.
I wasn't ready for that. We had a caller.
All right. Hey, we're going to see a lot of patience in these videos, and that's just awesome. Courtesy, letting them in. We always talk about 1 in 5 are going to jump out of there anyway. This driver, situational awareness, looks like a stalled vehicle. Stop back and let them out. Just a great courtesy here. Love it, love it. Here, again, don't need to be up in this, but we're going really slow, but this truck says I got to get over. You can see all the traffic. Probably didn't need to get that close. Again, your speed's in control. There's no threat of an accident, but you can just see all the chaos going on. And sometimes it's best just sit right here because you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I would always like to say, control the space in front of you. I kind of want to see concrete all the time between you and the vehicle in front of you, even when you're stopped, because it just, and you know what, just think of the other driver, the person in that car, they can't even see the emblem on your vehicle. All they see is the grill and headlights. You don't need to be that close. Just back off a little bit.
Yeah. Here, another great job. A lot of stuff going on. Intersection, railroad crossing, right? You got the focus on the light. It turns. It's going to turn yellow here now, I believe, and the driver is able to stop. There it turned yellow. But just great situational awareness. A lot of things going on. I love the fact that the driver is slowing down before the railroad crossing. Let's just make sure. Give us that time to survey the whole area, and then is able to stop when the light changes.
Yeah, because what you want to also be aware of on here, and Dave, I know you're going to talk on this as well, but if there's a car or two in front of you here and they stop at that stoplight, well, your tail's going to be back there in the track. So again, situational awareness. Know what you're up against. If it does turn yellow on you or red, you've got the ability, I think, to stop and have plenty of room back there. But if there's a car in front of you, that tail's probably on the tracks, Dave.
Yeah, I want you to always understand that if you do encounter a stale green light, it's okay, and it's okay to stop prior to the stoplight or prior to the railroad tracks. I don't want you to second guess whether you have your tail is on the tracks. I want you to know for certain that your tail's not on the tracks. You need to be comfortable in the knowledge that you don't have anything back there, and also be considerate, because if somebody's close to you behind you, they can't see the light, and if you stop and they stop, you might be positioning them on the track. So I'm not saying to be careful. I mean, I'm not saying always watch the traffic behind you, but what I am saying is just be cognizant of the fact of the traffic around you when you get to these types of railroad tracks. Railroad tracks are so dangerous because trains can't stop. Most of the other time, I that's the reason I bring up railroad tracks a lot, but trains can't stop and they won't stop. So you have to be cautious, and everyone loses involved in a train. Everyone loses because trains keep going. It doesn't matter what's on the track, they will take it down. And I just want you to be genuinely careful here in this place. I'm hoping this is a bobtail, but I hope this is a bobtail.
Yeah. Train versus vehicles, trains are undefeated, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the speed was great, 15 miles an hour, able to control everything. Again, stale green, possibly. Left turn, the speed is down. And then what I love is they're able to stop and not risk jumping out in front of that traffic until it's safe to do so. And now, just a great job at patience, right? I love it. Just awesome job, drivers.
I'm okay with positioning yourself. I know that they try to say wait till the intersection is clear, but it was obviously clear when you entered it. Now you actually control the intersection here. This is a very good job, very good driving right here, going to Walmart.
Yep. And here another good one. You know, courtesy, right? Traffic's going to slow down. Driver was able to stop. Plenty of space. You can speed limits. These rural country roads, and they're just going to let this driver out.
Probably waved them out.
Yep. Awesome job. These can be some of the most dangerous places on the highway with all the driveways and places of business that pop out of the tree lines. Just a tremendous job managing the speed and able to stop, look at all the space, and then shows the courtesy. Great job.
Not only courtesy here, but obeys the law by not blocking the intersection of the roadway by having to stop on the roadway. Very aware of their surroundings, very aware of what's happening here. Notice by the driver stopping here, if he would have gone forward and had to stop, he would have 100% blocked that roadway, which wouldn't have allowed somebody to make a left-hand turn, which would have then blocked it up for everybody because that guy couldn't have made his left-hand turn. So what a great job being aware of the situation.
Yeah, a lot of trees as well, which tells you that there are iguanas falling down everywhere right now.
Don't pick them up.
No. And our last one, again, great space, managing the speed. You know, traffic's going to slow down. Just great situational awareness. Just a good reminder that, hey, when you approach that slow traffic, 1 out of 5 is going to potentially jump out in front of you. See plenty of the concrete, drive safe, as you like to say, right? Awesome job by this driver. Managing the space around you.
I even like the positioning right at the end of putting their left tire on that yellow line, just so that they get a better picture of what's going on. 100% in favor of allowing as much distance between the car hauler and the toy hauler and everything around there. Great job just entering into that difficult situation.
A lot of patience shown there.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, listen, if you're a caller out there, you have a question, we have about 4 minutes still that we can get you in here. You know, raise your hand, type your question out. Producer, if you got somebody, let us know.
We do. We got Jeanette Hayes on
Good
the line.
morning, Ms. Hayes.
Good morning, guys. How are y'all doing?
Good.
I'm doing well.
Hey, 2 things. That one video with the railroad tracks right there at the intersection, I don't know if any of you guys have been up to our yard in Oklahoma City, but that is right as you turn out. And that truck, they did great. If you don't pay attention, there is not enough room between that light and those tracks for you to have a truck and trailer. So good job on him. My question was, a while ago during the weather report, Bob was saying that the ice band was coming in, but I did.
Yes, about 7, 8 o'clock Tuesday, it's going to start reaching into Missouri, St. Louis area, and then it's just going to grow bigger and wider for the next 48 hours, and then it starts to shift to the east a little bit, Jeanette. So We'll keep you updated. We're going to have geofences up probably starting later this afternoon, early tomorrow morning, just to give you a heads up. And all drivers out there, go to windy.com and you'll see that. And it's following the temperatures. There's a cold front, and it just, you can see the line forms the ice right away with the temperature. So, yes, about Tuesday around 7 p.m. So start seeing it moving into the Missouri, St. Louis area potentially.
All right, and also for those of you that may be new to this station here, hey, watch us tomorrow morning as well. Watch us this afternoon for some updates, but we'll keep you updated as we get going on that. Again, these are forecasts. Things are going to change, yes. And one thing that we do here at BCB Live is we try to guide you in the areas that you don't need to be in. We want to make sure that you see where they are. And Dave, when we see it's bad in Missouri, we don't want you to wait till you get there to do something. We don't want you in that area, right?
Yeah, we don't want you to have, and we sure don't want you to be caught in the area, because I'll tell you what generally happens out there on the road in those inclement areas when they are getting hammered. Every truck is trying to find a safe haven. Every spot is taken, and they're just double parked, backed up, moving around, trying to find an area to bed down in, to try to find that safe area to be in, and it just becomes overcrowded. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to be prepared before you go in, and also before you get close to those areas. It can be treacherous even in the truck stop. I'm telling you right now, it can get scary in there because they'll be overpacked.
For sure. So we want to make sure that you see that. Buckle up. I know we got probably a busy 3 days ahead of us, right? Yes. As we get into this weather. The thing we do here at BCB Live, though, is we're going to stay on. We're going to keep you informed of these major road issues, the traffic issues, these weather that we just have to be aware of, because we don't need to be on the road if it's going to endanger life, your life, the life of somebody else. We've got to make sure we're doing our part. Also, I want you to take note of our new email address. It's info@bcblive.tv. Yes, .tv, because drive safe, Dave. You are a TV star, no longer just a .com guy.
No, I'm actually moved into the big 55-inch so that you can get a little bit more of the shirts.
Oh, gosh, please stop. You know what? Say a prayer for all of us with that, sir.
Dear Heavenly Father, we gather before you today on this special day. Father, we ask that you give us the strength and the courage to go out and do the right thing, to be a blessing upon somebody else. Father, we also want to say thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us this day, all that you have given us and all that you will give us. Father, we should be, and we ask that you help us appreciate what we have and how we can enjoy it more. Father, give us also the ability to go out and do the right thing in your will upon the world as you see it. We ask all these things in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all. We'll see you this afternoon. BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.